On a misty morning when the world still yawned awake, the king's castle shimmered in the soft glow of dawn. Beyond its tall windows, the village rooftops still slept under a blanket of silver fog, and the air carried the faint scent of fresh-baked bread from the baker's shop below. Inside, the great hall was alive with voices, the clinking of goblets, and the rustle of velvet robes. The king, an aging but proud ruler, had summoned his 3 sons. He sat tall in his golden chair, his crown gleaming in the firelight. Though he smiled at his sons, there was a glint of mischief in his eyes. "My dear boys," he began, "I have a challenge for you, one that will decide who shall inherit my throne." The 3 princes leaned forward. "You must each go out into the world," the king said, "and return with the smallest and most beautiful dog you can find. The one who brings back the most extraordinary little dog shall be my heir." The brothers exchanged glances. The eldest smirked, confident in his skill. The middle son twirled the edge of his cloak, already thinking of the merchants he could bribe. But the youngest, gentle, thoughtful, and quiet, simply bowed his head. The very next day, the princes set off, each taking a different road. The youngest rode for hours, his horse's hooves thudding against the road as fields gave way to forest. The day wore on, and clouds gathered. A wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it the faintest sound. Was it music? He followed the sound through the thickening woods until, just as the last light of day slipped away, he saw a strange glow in the distance. It was warm and golden, and it seemed to spill from a high wall covered in ivy. He urged his horse forward until they reached a grand gate carved with delicate flowers and curling vines. Before he could knock, the gate swung open silently. Inside was a courtyard unlike anything he had ever seen. Paths of white marble, gardens bursting with roses and jasmine, fountains that sang softly as they spilled into crystal basins. And there, at the top of a staircase, sat a cat. But not just any cat. She was as white as snow, her fur gleaming in the lamplight. Her eyes were the deep, endless blue of a summer sky, and around her neck was a collar of pearls finer than any crown. "Welcome, Prince," the cat said in a voice as soft as velvet. The prince blinked in astonishment. "You can speak?" The cat's whiskers twitched in a smile. "Of course. And you must be tired and hungry. Come, I have prepared a feast." She led him inside a palace that shimmered with gold and crystal. Everywhere he looked, tiny white cats, dressed in silken jackets and jeweled collars, moved gracefully, carrying trays of food or playing instruments made of silver. The young prince sat at a table and was served the finest meal he had ever tasted. Candles glowed, music played, and the white cat spoke with him as if they were old friends. Days turned into weeks. The prince learned that the white cat was wise, witty, and full of kindness. She told him stories of faraway lands and showed him gardens where flowers glowed in the moonlight and fountains whispered secrets. The challenge from his father still pressed in his mind, but here, time felt different, softer. At last, the year the king had given them was nearly gone. The prince confessed, "My lady, I must return to my father with the smallest and most beautiful dog. I have searched, but found nothing worthy." The white cat's eyes sparkled. "Do not worry. You shall have the most extraordinary little dog in the world." She led him to a room where a tiny jewel-encrusted chest sat on a cushion. "Open it when you stand before your father," she said, "and take this too." She pressed a small golden key into his hand. The prince, puzzled but grateful, promised to return. When the princes gathered in the great hall, the eldest presented a delicate greyhound no bigger than a rabbit. The middle son showed a silken spaniel with eyes like dark honey. Then it was the youngest's turn. He stepped forward and opened the jeweled chest. Inside, nestled in a bed of satin, was the tiniest dog anyone had ever seen. No bigger than a mouse, with fur that shimmered like spun gold and eyes like drops of dew. It yipped once, and the sound was like a tiny bell. The court gasped, but the king only smiled slyly. "Impressive. But I have another challenge. You must each bring me a piece of cloth so fine it could pass through the eye of a needle," the king declared. Once again, the brothers set off, and once again, the youngest prince found himself returning to the glowing gates of the White Cat's palace. "You have returned," she purred, her voice tinged with something like joy. The prince told her of his father's new challenge, and she simply nodded. "It is easily done." From a small drawer, she took out a walnut. "Open it only before your father." He laughed softly. "A walnut?" Her blue eyes twinkled. "Trust me." At the castle, the eldest brought silk so fine it flowed like water. The middle son presented lace as delicate as frost. Then the youngest cracked open the walnut, and out unrolled a bolt of cloth so fine it gleamed like moonlight and truly passed through the eye of a needle. The court gasped again, but the king, ever playful and cunning, had one final challenge. "You must each bring me the most beautiful bride," the king said. "She shall be your wife, and the queen of this land." The youngest's heart sank. He could not imagine a bride more wonderful than the White Cat. But how could a cat be his queen? When he returned to the palace, she greeted him with a strange sadness in her eyes. "I know why you have come," she said softly, "and I know what must be done. Tonight, you must cut off my head." The prince stepped back in horror. "Never! I would sooner lose the crown than harm you." Her voice was gentle but firm. "If you care for me, you must trust me. Only then will the truth be free." With a heavy heart and trembling hands, he did as she asked. In a flash of golden light, the White Cat vanished, and in her place stood a young woman of extraordinary beauty. Her gown shimmered with pearls, and her hair flowed like sunlight. She smiled, tears shining in her eyes. "I am a princess who was cursed by a jealous fairy to live as a cat until a prince willingly did as you have done. You have freed me." They returned to the king's court, where her beauty and grace outshone everyone. The king embraced them both, declaring the youngest prince his heir. The prince and the princess were wed, and the palace rang with music and laughter for days. The gates of the White Cat's palace closed forever, but in the gardens of the royal castle, white roses still bloomed in memory of the magical friend who had changed everything. True beauty lies not in appearance, but in kindness, trust, and the courage to see beyond the surface. Like, comment, and subscribe for more magical tales. And don't forget to press the bell icon. If you could break a magical curse for someone, what would you hope they turn into? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to hear your ideas.